We're the United States of America. Unity and oneness is what we're made of. One nation under God, it's plain to see. We're showing the whole world what a country should be. United we stand in America, hand in hand in America. Together as one in a land that we love. United we stand in America.
Good morning, everyone out there. Welcome to Changing Times. It is Wednesday. It is February the 5th, and we've got a rainy day here in Springfield, Missouri. We are live at the Acts Media Group headquarters in Springfield, and I am Lynn Morris.
And I'm Dr. Mary Byrne.
You certainly are. And we've got Dennis Everson. He's our volunteer producer that managed to get our two great guests connected this morning. We've got them linked there in Jefferson City, Missouri. And we have State Representative Bishop Davidson. Bishop, are you on the line?
Yes, sir, I am. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for being an IT expert. So we appreciate that. And we got Curtis Trent, Senator Curtis Trent, Missouri Senator. Are you on the line?
I'm here as well. Appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning.
Great. Okay, well, I tell you what, you guys are difference makers. Once a few years ago, I was a state rep. You guys know that, and I sure enjoyed my 8 years of public service to the citizens in Christian County, and obviously you serve the whole state, but you're serving your own district. But we're going to talk about some important issues today. I know that, and Mary and I have talked about this, you guys have a very interesting, very important bill, tax bill, and it seems like the concept the last several years is cut taxes. I think everybody seems to be tired of taxes. They think they've gotten kind of high, and sometimes the income has not kept up with the amount of taxes you end up having to pay. And so that's a problem, especially with inflation that we've had the last couple of years. So you guys have a tax bill, and then we want to kind of talk about the climate of other tax bills, types of concepts. But why don't you guys go ahead and start and tell us about the bill that you both have co-sponsored, both in the House and the Senate. That's really important to get. One of the best ways you can get a bill passed is to find early on somebody that will co-sponsor a bill, identical bill, in both the House and the Senate.
Well, they're kind of like the Doge of Missouri.
Okay. Well, yeah.
To have this bill pass, they have to make government expenditures more efficient. And I was real excited to hear their explanation of how this works at a luncheon a couple of weeks ago. And so I thought, we should get them on the air and explain to a larger public just what the thought process was, because it's not just about cutting taxes. You have to make government more efficient in order to do that.
Yeah, because you're going to have to replace that money from somewhere.
No, you're going to have to cut wasteful programs.
Well, you got to do that, but I almost think that you're going to have to replace some of the money somewhere. But another interesting thing you said, I wasn't there at that meeting, but you said that Representative Davidson had something interesting to say why he wanted to pass.
Oh, yes. Well, in our pursuit of identifying people who are difference makers, we like for them to explain to the audience how their faith informs what their motivation is. And Representative Davidson was talking about how he wanted this for families in Missouri. Representative Davidson, can you talk about this? Your motivation there, how you explained it at the luncheon?
Yeah, and I think how I explained it, probably how many lawmakers feel. We get kind of bogged down in the policy, which I love, and I'm pretty wonky and nerdy, so I don't mind it at all, but it's important to take a step back and remember why it is we're doing what we're doing. And, I just had a vision for an everyday Missourian who's able to afford a house, right? Who's able to buy a car for his spouse, who's able to put some money away for college for one or two of his three kids that he doesn't have to worry about affording. Put some for retirement, and then also is able to take his wife out for a nice dinner every couple weeks, and the family out for dinner too, and to afford a few subscriptions, and maybe a used car when his daughter turns 16, and a trip to Florida every now and again, and Branson in the off years. And so it's a pretty straightforward vision. I think a lot of folks have enjoyed that in the past, remember that from the past, maybe aspire towards that for their families now. And I want that to be possible for everyone. And frankly, I want it to be possible for them on a single income, not because I have some sort of commitment of who has to stay home or this, that, or the other, or if both people can work or not work. I just want to give families more flexibility as they manage their own homes, as
Well,
they
time
figure out.
together is required to have a family relationship. And I think that's my big concern about this whole idea of workforce development. If you just view the human being as a human resource for the creation of the state's economy, then you forget that there's a individual need for this job in order to support something that's much more private, and that is the family. And so I like hearing legislators who remember the people that they represent and the needs of those people, not just the economy of the state. So I thank you for that. Yeah. And you have an incredible story of sacrifice, how you filed that bill. You want to describe that too? You were sleeping on the couch.
Yeah, no, it was a funny story. So in the House, the order of the bills is not as predetermined. You got to get there first to get it filed first. And we decided that HJR1 was going to be easier to market, easier to share, HB 100, easier to share with the grassroots. And so it was important to us that we file it early. And the trouble is some of my colleagues get there at like 3 a.m. to file their bills. And so I didn't know exactly how early. And I got kind of fretting and nervous. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm just going to go sit outside of the clerk's office. And I figured I'd sleep on the hard Missouri marble floor. But lo and behold, I got to the third floor about 8 o'clock that night, ready to just sit there for the next 12 hours. And I said that God provided for me because there was a big long couch in the hallway kind of randomly. And so I dragged that couch over to the clerk's office, laid my head down, went to bed. About 3 a.m, colleague came up. I pulled out under my blanket. I said, I'm first. And I went back to bed for a couple more hours. So
Yeah, Senator, you didn't have as big a problem over in the Senate, right? Because yours is done by seniority.
No, I don't have a similar story. No, we just file by seniority, and so there's no having to think about it.
Yeah. No need for that. So, in that presentation, you described that this is not just a single act of cutting taxes. There has to be a way to compensate for the money that wouldn't be coming in through income tax if you have a zero income tax bill. Senator Trent, can you explain what the three-prong approach is?
Well, certainly. So, I mean, you can basically solve this problem in a few different ways. You can either solve it by replacing tax revenue with income tax revenue with a different source of revenue. You can solve it through natural growth. So as the economy gets larger, government naturally takes in a larger amount of money because most of the taxes are fixed on a percent basis rather than like an actual numerical basis. So as your economy grows, your tax base grows as well. And you can also solve the problem by finding savings and efficiencies in government and drawing down the size. And so we have always thought that probably all three of these different approaches will be ultimately utilized in solving this problem and getting to income tax zero. But obviously, the three different ways in which you can do this, which ones you utilize the most is going to depend on the speed at which you want to achieve income tax zero. So if you do it very quickly, then you're going to need a lot of replacement taxes and spending cuts. If you do it more slowly over time, then you can use the natural growth to slowly buy down the income tax one piece at a time.
And what are the
and
other
so that's
states? What are the other states, and what have they done?
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so the other states have a little more complicated history with income tax, and it's been a few decades since states have done this. The last one to do it was Alaska, which was a unique position because it found oil, and so they did a replacement method. They were able to get rid of their income tax more or less all at once. But we've got to be a little bit more creative with the way that we do it here in Missouri. And frankly, the way that Missouri is going to move forward is probably going to be the way that other states would be able to move forward as well, thinking in this more tempered way and making sure that they include all three elements, because we're not all just sitting on liquid gold like they are up in Alaska.
Yeah. What other states who are trying to move towards zero income tax are doing, you see them utilizing a three-pronged approach, something similar to this. And, you've got to tailor it to the political realities, the economic realities of the moment in time in which you're making the attempt, and also to, the unique characteristics of your state. And so that's why we use a comparison with Tennessee a lot when we talk about this and talk about like what it looks like when it's ultimately completed, because Tennessee looks a lot more like Missouri than most of the other states that have zero income tax. Because you do have the Alaskas that have oil, you have the Texas and Floridas that have beaches and sun, or have very different economies from Missouri. Tennessee is very similar to our state. In my opinion, I think this is something that Representative Davidson says often when we talk about this issue, is that Tennessee doesn't have anything that Missouri doesn't have, or it doesn't do anything that Missouri doesn't do, and probably do better. And so if it can work there, then it should be able to work here just as well, if not better.
Yeah, so you just described, when you talked about beaches, you talked about tourism bringing in income into the state. You might put this under your hat. I've always contended that Route 66 is underdeveloped, that down here in Southwest Missouri, we do have Branson, but there's another gold mine here. But you have to be a history nerd to appreciate that. I was really cued into what that history was from the Disney movie Cars, to tell you the truth. And then I come to find out there were foundations to develop Route 66, but I haven't heard a lot of noise about it. But in a video that I watched, the foundation administrators were saying that kids in Europe know more about Route 66 than Americans do. And I believe that. There used to be a television show, maybe you're not old enough to remember, but there was a television show called Route 66. Dennis remembers. And I think there's things we can capitalize and grow here in Southwest Missouri that would help your cause in using tourism to create revenue and further the goal of a zero income tax, because I believe wholeheartedly that the money belongs in the pockets of the families that earn that money.
Hey, Mary, and guys, I want to tell you something. I'm glad you said Route 66, because this weekend, I think it's Friday, this Friday, National Geographic, a beautiful magazine that I still subscribe to. We used to subscribe to it when our kids were growing up because it was very educational. And so, and still today, we give copies to our grandkids and things like that. I love the pictures. And they've got a special supplement on Route 66. And Christian County, Greene County, the two counties right around
Absolutely.
here that has Route 66 going through it, being involved in it, Branson area, all have ads and things like this. And they are predicting, National Geographic, because they have such a large world audience, they predict thousands of people from around the world is going to be coming here in the next 12 months to see and visit all the areas of Route 66.
Yeah, we gotta get ready.
So there's some tourism dollars right
Yeah.
there. Hey, I want to ask you guys a question. I know how hard it is to get a bill passed, and through the House, we got to go through two committees. Where are we at in the House side? And then I want to ask Senator Trent a question.
Yeah. Right now in the House, we actually just had the hearing yesterday, and it was a good, strong public hearing. Little opposition, lots of support. Positive indications from the committee members themselves. We we had some meetings with the governor's staff, and as he transitioned, we decided we wanted to slow things down just a little bit. It's about that balance between, of course, moving quickly and getting the job done, but also getting the job right. And so the bill's taken a few different iterations since its conception. But right now, we just got our House hearing. I was told by the chair yesterday, hey, if you can get the sub to me by Monday, we'll exec it out on Tuesday. So
Wonderful.
that's where we are.
And then what committee does it go to next?
After that, it would be a rules committee, and that's a conversation that I'll have to have with the speaker. Of course, since you had served in the legislature, we've had a little bit change in our rules. Round rules committees, it used to be that they were pre-routed, and these committees went to that rules, and those committees went to that one. Now it actually goes back to the speaker's office, and the speaker can decide which rules committee it actually goes to. So.
Okay, very good. Very good. So good information. So Senator Trent, what's the chances in the Senate? Do you think this year you guys are going to be working better together? Our Republican Party is going to work better together to get these important bills passed?
Yeah, I'm very hopeful. I mean, so far the Senate seems to be working with regular order fairly well. And legislation is beginning to move through the chamber. And so my hope is that, particularly on this bill and many others, but particularly on this bill, that once we develop a consensus opinion, we'll be able to focus on passage and we'll have a really good chance of doing that.
So what's the
so far,
climate for this kind of bill up there? When you talk to people, to your colleagues in the Senate, do you get a good reception?
I do. So far I've had very good reception from the Republican caucus. Even some folks on the other side of the aisle are not as opposed to it as you might expect. And so, I think the key is getting a product that we can show will work and will not impact the finances of the state negatively, and that will accomplish the goal of hitting income tax zero in a very predictable way. But I feel like that once we have shown that math and we've got a consensus product, we will have a fairly significant chance of being able to move it.
So,
Now, there are a lot of things that can go wrong between now and then, but I'm hopeful right now.
my daughter is a small business entrepreneur, and what I'm interested in is how you develop attracting entrepreneurs to this state, not just satisfy large corporation agendas. Because it's actually entrepreneurs who create the most jobs for people. So is there somebody you're talking to discuss what would make Missouri a welcoming climate for small business entrepreneurs?
Yes, I think that is a multifaceted question, right? And for good reason. It's because there's a lot of things that can create that sort of environment. What I think we believe, and certainly what I believe, is that the single biggest step that we could take to attracting entrepreneurs to our state is to eliminate the income tax.
Okay.
That's kind of that's kind of the crazy thing about it is you look at all of our various challenges before us, whether it's losing population or income, or stagnant population and income, whether it's housing prices, whether it's a lack of innovation or entrepreneurs moving in, whether it's a growing average age of Missourians. Across the board, if you eliminate the income tax, that's like the first step to improving all of those different challenges. And the proof is sort of in the pudding, right? You look around at these other states, and they are outperforming in all economic metrics. But even more than that, they're outperforming in many of the public services. They're doing better at infrastructure, and better with less, I might add. They're doing better at education. They're doing better at public safety. And so that's sort of the remarkable thing. And it's because tax dollars and cents, it's more than tax dollars and cents, especially when you're talking about income taxes. It's not just a tax on those dollars and cents, and it doesn't weigh the same as the dollars and cents that you pay at the store when you buy a product. It is a taxation on your time. It's a taxation on your investment, your priorities, the way in which you aspire for good things to happen to you and your family, and how you want to allocate that time. And that's the problem we see. And we think if we get rid of that, folks like your daughter are going to be flocking to Missouri in the same way that they have flocked to Tennessee or other states.
Right. I see this has huge implications for families that, the breadwinner is working 2 jobs just to keep food on the table and the rent paid. But that's because a portion of what they earn is going in taxes. So if you can reduce that, you can actually improve the quality of life for families that are struggling like that. I know that there was a big push in recent years to attract retirees because they weren't bringing in, you might say, the children that would need more services such as education. In other words, it wasn't going to cost as much to have them here, but they were bringing in a source of money that could be taxed. That said, they're not job creators. I mean, I'm one of them. I'm not against them, but they're not job creators. And that's why the vision has to be bigger than attracting senior citizens. It has to be about attracting entrepreneurs. And so I'm excited to hear what you just had to say. That's great.
Hey, let me ask you another question. So I know this is not something that you're going to do overnight. So how many years do you think it would take to get this actually reduced to zero?
So
Have you got an idea?
we actually, I said the bill is kind of taken form in many ways, and Curtis really expertly put it right. We've got growth, we've got efficiencies or cuts, and we've got replacement revenue. And we originally relied on growth within the legislation, and now we're looking at replacement revenue. Of course, cuts is not something that you can impose in the legislation so much as something that has to be acted upon in the future. In the appropriation process. But right now, the committee substitute proposal that I presented in committee yesterday actually eliminates the income tax in one fell swoop. And so we're looking to go to zero because we know the faster we go, the quicker Missourians benefit. And after talking with many of the stakeholders around the state, elected officials, the biggest criticism we got was, this is kind of slow. Is there any way we can make this go quicker? And so we got to number crunching and figuring out, well, how do you make it go faster? And I'll tell you, if you just get rid of sales tax exemptions and loopholes, right, and you create a fairer, more transparent, more simple tax code in Missouri, you can eliminate the income tax and be revenue neutral for somewhere in the ballpark of 4.2% to 4.3%. The math, some folks say 4.10%, and we're really trying to hone in on what that exact number is. but there's even a chance that you could actually lower the state sales tax rate and do all those things at the same time, just by removing those loopholes and exemptions that I was talking about.
Well, let me ask you, that's very interesting. Man, that's exciting. I hope you guys can get this done. So let me ask you another question. We're going to kind of switch gears a little bit. Sales tax for food. I know in 23 we had several bills in Jefferson City that several people sponsoring bills to eliminate or cut sales tax on groceries. When I heard that, I went up to Jefferson City 2 or 3 times. I'm on the state board, MAC, and so all the county commissioners, and I go to those monthly meetings, and I sometimes will go up to Jefferson City after we get through with the meeting in Jefferson City, go to the Capitol and talk to you guys. And I was mostly talking to people in Christian County because they voted 3 times, both of them did, our state reps, to eliminate grocery sales tax. And when you talk to Miss Hancock, that is the lady that I talked to on fiscal notes for the Department of Revenue. So this is not my auditor, it's not me, it's this Department of Revenue was estimating a 40% loss of revenue for our Christian County. And Greene County was about the same. We kind of studied some of the different things that the Department of Revenue said. Even towns, municipalities like Ozark, Nixa, Sparta, Clever, all those towns, they were going to lose a lot of money. We weren't sure how we could replace our budget, since sales taxes are number one driver for our entire total budget. It's up to 75, 80% of our total budget. So if you cut 40%, how do I provide services for law enforcement, roads, and things like that? Is there a desire again this year to have somebody work on a elimination of sales tax and groceries?
I think the most important thing to think about when people are talking about exempting food from groceries is that they're interested in food being cheaper, right? Groceries being cheaper. It's not really about the tax; it's about what they pay for at the checkout. And I would contest that we can look at sales tax exemption, and there are bills that have been filed in that way. But that is a tax on the very end of that product's life, right? There's a whole supply chain. And we see that tax. That's what makes it transparent. It's right there in front of you. And I kind of don't mind that it frustrates people, right? It's good to keep the people a little frustrated at their government. But what I will tell you is that there are these hidden taxes that hit and increase costs at every step of that supply chain. And we believe that income taxes are the driving force of that cost increase behind that product getting to the store. And so when we look at food and we look at tax exemptions, I think it's important to think more holistically and talk about how do we slow down the rising cost of our groceries. And I would contend that getting rid of the income tax actually does more for that end than exempting it from any other particular tax.
And also keep in mind that this proposal wouldn't impact local taxes as it is conceptualized right now. So it wouldn't have any impact on your county's revenue and what your county is doing locally.
No, that's why I'm going to work so hard. That's why I'm going to work so hard to help you get your bill passed, because it's not
now
it's just going to help people.
Yeah, and also keep in mind that if we're able to accomplish this, again, you do eliminate all those taxes that get baked in at every stage of the process, because those are all pass-through costs. When an employee has to pay an income tax, their employer has to pay them more money to get them to do that job. And so ultimately that income tax is being paid by employees. It's being paid, not just employees of the grocery store, employees of the farm that grew the food, employees of the manufacturer that packed and processed the food. Like, all that is passed through in a way that is not transparent into the final cost of a product.
Very good. Hey, I'm going to take a break right now, so you guys stay with us. You're going to hear, we have 2 sponsors. Mary and I Changing Times has two sponsors that makes this show possible. The first one is Brad Pistow, Certified Fiduciary Financial Planner, located right in Ozark, Missouri. And he is the president of Trinity Insurance and Financial Services. He's licensed in 12 states. He actually is my financial advisor for all my retirement planning, and a lot of my friends, a lot of my family members use Brad Pistow. He has written two books, Safe Money Matters and Bulletproof, both best-selling #1 books on Amazon for retirement planning. He writes articles all over the place. He speaks all over the country, and he's one of the most recognized retirement planners in the entire country. He writes for USA Today, Wall Street Journal, many other types of publications, and he is in Ozark, Missouri. His phone number, 417-581-9222, 417-581-9222. I highly recommend. It's never too early to think about retiring. He has many, many plans, and he always says, I can give you a plan that you'll not run out of money before you run out of your life. And that is extremely something that all people worry about, and so I highly recommend him. The second sponsor that we have is Springfield Nissan, Springfield Kia, used to be Youngblood Motor Group. They've been in business, family owned, over 45 years. And right now, John Whittaker is the acting partner owner, and John Youngblood retired. And then we have Aaron Swanson. He's been on our show. He's the general manager. And so they sell Nissans and Kias in Springfield, Missouri. On one side is South Campbell. They also sell used cars right across the street on South Campbell in Springfield, Missouri. And they have a lot of cars that have been inspected, and they're certified cars. So they're cars that will go down the road many, many miles and not cause any type of financial repair work. And so we highly recommend them. My last two cars have come from them. I'm getting ready to buy a car in 25. That will be from them too. A lot of people, not just in Missouri, buy cars from Springfield Nissan, Springfield Kia. They can find you other cars. I drive a Jeep right now, a Grand Cherokee Summit Jeep. So they can find you a car. They are very good in service and everything that you'd want with a car dealer. So that's our two sponsors, but we're going to have to wrap it up. But last words for you guys. What else do we need to know that's going on at the Capitol?
There's a lot of issues that are going to, I think, move forward this year. Normally you have 2 or 3 really big issues. We probably have more like 8 or 9 really big issues this year. Some of them are things that people are familiar with, like initiative petition reform. I think there's going to be a reaction to Amendment 3, and the abortion issue is an important one to really thoroughly think through and try to find a way to repeal and mitigate what happened there. And then you've got gun rights. I think the Second Amendment Preservation Act, which was passed a few years ago, has had significant legal challenges. And so I think we should expect some kind of fix for that piece of legislation going through, again, protect Missourians' Second Amendment rights. And then you've got some big other economic issues that are happening. So things like utilities, things like the way prescription drugs, the availability of prescription drugs in the state. And then safety issues. So you've got, significant crime problem in St. Louis. There's legislation that the governor has weighed in on, and that's being pushed through the legislature right now. I can expect, significant debate around that subject as well, because again, that's such a fundamental issue to protect the safety of Missourians from crime. The ideal amount of crime is none, and so we want to get closer to that ideal.
Yeah, it's that I-44 corridor coming up from Springfield through St. Louis going to Chicago. I think it's not discussed enough how much traffic and whether it's human trafficking or drug trafficking, that corridor is quite a problem. And while I was driving here, I heard that it was in the House, the debate on a resolution to put before the voters of Missouri the repeal of Amendment 3. So Representative Davidson, what do you know about that? The climate, again, I call it the climate, but is there much support for it over in the House?
Oh yeah. Tremendous support. I'd say tremendous support throughout the body. It's about finding the right resolution,
Okay.
right? Finding that resolution that not only can pass through these chambers, but also pass at the ballot box. It's been a challenging reality to kind of come to terms with. I think we as a legislature are probably more pro-life than Missouri as a whole. And so figuring out where that difference is and where that meet in the middle exists is the biggest challenge. There was a special committee created to really dig into this issue, and they have now heard those bills yesterday. So I anticipate seeing some movement now as that plan unfolds, and that's going to be just a tremendously important issue. It's a top priority here in the House. What I'd also say before we go, though, I wanted to make sure Curtis did a great job of explaining some of the issues here in the legislature. But if your listeners are more interested in this topic of eliminating income taxes, we actually will be back in Springfield for like tour stop number 6 or something like that. We've been going all about the state. February 15th, Mother's Brewery at 4 p.m., free food.
That's on a Saturday.
And that's on a Saturday. Free food. But even more exciting, you get to listen to Curtis and I talk again,
and ask us questions.
We
because this is something that's going to have to be voted on at the ballot box as well. And so the coalition that we need to get this done in the legislature looks a lot like the coalition that we need to pass it statewide. And so we need your listeners to be involved in this as well.
Yeah, no. And so we've done our best to take on the hard questions too. We, in fact, enjoy the hard questions. So we'd love if your listeners joined us. That's February 15th, Saturday, February 15th, 4 p.m., Mother's Brewery.
And listeners, bring friends who haven't heard of this show. Get as much airtime to voters so that they understand the implications are very positive for them, but they're going to need SJR means this is going to be something the voters have to vote on. So it's up to us, people, the grassroots. We really need to mobilize and not just leave it to champions in Jeff City to carry the burden for us. They need our support. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you guys feel free. You know how to contact both of us. And if you want to come back on as the session goes and starts speeding up, we know how it works. It starts out slow. It keeps going faster and faster until it's pretty rapid at the very end and pretty hectic. But if you need to communicate anything to us, we can sure pass it along to all our listeners. And you know what's interesting, we're talking about Missouri today, but we have listeners and viewers from all 50 states right now. And there'll be people thinking, wow, look at Missouri. Look what Missouri's trying to do. And it will make Missouri better. It will make our people happier and take care of our people. And maybe another state will get the idea they need to do it too. So that's what we try to do. We try to teach other states how to do things too. So appreciate that. You guys have a great, blessed day, and we'll see you later. Thanks for watching today. We'll be back next week with Jerry and Kate Angelo, both ministers. They both have written books on marriage, and we're going to talk about the institution of marriage and some things going on up in Jeff City. You guys probably know Jerry Angelo, but he does a national state day of prayer up in Jeff City. He goes up there and does a marriage resolution, things like that. So Greene County, Christian County, we've got that marriage resolution ready for next week. And so anyway, lots of things going on. You guys have a great day.
guys have a great
Thanks for
day.
what you do.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep. Take care.
You too. Bye.
What a country should be.